I guess it started when I became an instructor. I could see this golden thread in our learning approach and our riding style, and actually, I think fear is a really big part of that. The anxiety and frustration and even tears. If you get through that, something changes. My name is Josie West.
My name is Ava.
My name is Liu.
I'm Kat.
Jennifer Johnston. My name is Madison.
Henrietta.
Yalu Langare.
My name is Catherine.
Daisy.
I'm Kim.
Jess.
I'm Clemmy.
My name is Jules.
My name is Paulina Mu.
I'm Natalie.
My name is Eliška Manava.
My name is Grace Austin.
My name is Zorneka.
My name's Hannah Whiteley.
I'm Anya.
Therese.
I'm Sophie.
Marine.
My name is Kim.
I'm Jana Muse.
Jana Krčmová.
My name is Cynthia Brown.
My name is Kaya Lima.
My name is Simona.
It's Pauline.
Leila.
Our mission is to create more of us. It's simple. But make sure there's an environment that doesn't stop us. Instead, it encourages us and supports us. And for those at the top, that determination and the commitment and the sacrifice, we recognize that and we use them. They're so inspirational, and ultimately, they're the ones leading the way.
I fly.
I fly.
I fly. She flies.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree.
I'm a professional kite surfer.
Oh, I've been running from the law.
I don't really do tricks, but I like to try to get barrel. My best advice is to enjoy what you're doing. That is the key to success.
Try to catch me howling at the moon. Try to catch me howling at the moon. Try to catch me howling at the moon.
If there's something you want to do, just do it, because life's too short to hold back. My absolute favourite thing to do in the world is snowboarding.
I'm not a professional kite surfer, but I'm professionally stoked.
Don't think, just do it.
My best trick?
Back roll.
Double back roll.
Back roll to revert.
Control.
Two-side transparent to blind.
Wrapped front roll.
Traveler's front roll.
I haven't learned any tricks yet, but that's my next challenge.
Just jump and I just did it.
Sporty person out there is the one having the most fun.
Be fearless, girls. Follow your passion.
Remember to celebrate.
With a bit of passion and persistence, anything is possible.
Click your brain off, do it, and you're gonna get it.
It's the best feeling you can have.
Beginner or professional, there's a global wave and there is definitely a place for you. Be brave. Because when you fly, we fly.
Awesome. So just a bit of an intro. So this is our first Women in Data webinar. We're going to be holding it monthly on Wednesdays, and you can find out more about everyone can mute themselves. That'd be great. Yeah. So on LinkedIn, you'll be able to find more information about the upcoming ones after this. The next one will be with Desi and Prathi about the benefits of female-to-female mentorships, but benefits of both organisations and the individuals. So I'm Rhian Atkins. I'm a data analytics consultant and client manager at Altius. And I'll be hosting these, which will be kind of in conversation with these inspiring women that I've kind of met or know throughout my kind of career. And the reason I kind of set these up is because I have kind of met or worked with or seen amazing female leaders, but I've only kind of stumbled kind of across them, and just being able to have kind of put them together and kind of lift people up and kind of be more visible. I think that would have massively helped me earlier in my career and even now, just to be inspired and get excited, really. So I'm just going to introduce my dear friend Josie. So she's a mathematician by background, so currently a principal data scientist at PA Consulting. But Josie, is it the last 12, 18 months now it's been that you've set up a not-for-profit organisation called She Flies, which
12, is 1 year old we were in July.
It was your 1 year in June or July or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So in all your spare time as a consultant, obviously everyone knows, you've set up this organisation, which is probably a little bit similar to this, but obviously for women in extreme sports. But obviously you've got that community, you have events, you have coaching, you have camps all around the world. So let's kind of chat about that. So do you want to kind of, because we've talked previously, and what was super interesting when we started talking was the kind of instant and obvious difference that you saw when you were coaching men versus women.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we started. So to tell you a bit about She Flies, for those that don't know, I'm sure most people will have never heard of it in this circle of people. So yeah, we're a year old. It's a social enterprise, as you said, and really our mission is to grow and strengthen the number of women in extreme sports. We do events, so we obviously with COVID, we're doing a lot more online events, but we also do physical events. Physical events are obviously much more productive for us in extreme sports, but we also do camps abroad, and we have a very, very strong community online, all focused on the development of women. It's not women only, but it focuses on the development of women. And yeah, as you said, alluded to, I think we started a year ago, and it all came from, I was on a sabbatical, so I worked for PA Consulting, and they were kind enough to let me have a sabbatical for 12 months where I went and had an early midlife crisis and found myself. And my passion has always been kite surfing, so I live and breathe kite surfing, and I went and I became an instructor and was teaching all around the world. And to sort of answer your question about the differences, I never actually believed in women-only initiatives, and I say that tentatively because I know a lot of people joining this, men and women, recognise the need for it. I never did. I was always very my parents would probably call me stubborn, and sort of put myself forward as a really strong person, and I don't need that kind of support and around me. And then I started teaching kite surfing, And I realised that there's a difference between men and women. There's a scale, of course, there's a big scale, but there's a huge difference between the way in which men and women learn and the energy that's created when it is just women. So I did a lot of reading about men and women and how they learn. And I'm not a psychologist, but I've read many, many, many articles, and I won't go into a rabbit hole now, but the crux of it is that men learn through trial and error. So they learn by feeling, muscle memory, particularly, obviously I'm talking about extreme sports here. They try, they fail, they try again. That's how they learn, they feel it in their body. Whereas women are much more about the detail. So they need to know the entire environment, all the dangers, all the requirements, all of the step-by-step processes, what's going to happen next, until they feel comfortable enough that they have control of that situation, and then they try. And the extreme sports world is designed to coach men. It's designed, the coaching of extreme sports is all about just try, just have a go. And that doesn't work for women.
Yeah. Obviously, it is a lot more subtle in business, but, business world can kind of, use that as well. If you ask for a promotion or if you ask for a pay rise, much more likely to get it if you just put yourself out there. But obviously it's not muscle memory, and is it nature versus nurture? Is it a bit of both? I think I've mentioned to you before the article about parents and their children in like a children's playground, and there's a fireman's pole by parents. And both parents, both mums and dads, would say to women, to the girls, they would be a lot more careful. They would highlight the risks, and they would be much more likely to help them. And so it might be a bit of both, but there's definitely some nurture in there about boys, you go and play, and if you hurt yourself, you'll learn. Whereas I don't know, and so maybe we just need to just acknowledge that maybe in society we need to make sure that we understand that people are kind of brought up differently, even if like you, I assumed that I wasn't, and I'm a strong independent woman. I can be just as bolshy and just as loud as a guy, but actually there might be these underlying things that we're just not aware of, and kind of comes into that unconscious bias.
And I think actually that comes into it as well, that we can't change nature. We could change nurture, but it would be pretty difficult to stop every parent in the world stopping their female, their daughters to not be to be careful. We couldn't change that. It would take years and years to do it. But what we can change is the way that we treat women and we approach the learning journey of a woman. So as I said, in extreme sports, we have in coaching women differently, you see a better progression. And this is where it's easy to see in extreme sports, and you can't argue with it. There's a scale. I'm going to keep saying that throughout this whole session. There is a scale, and some women might not sort of identify with a lot of this. But you can see it in extreme sports because it's tangible. When it comes into business, it's much harder to see because it's subtle, and it's subtle behaviours that it's really difficult to identify. I think in the extreme sports world, the approach that a woman takes to the sport doesn't sort of make her worse than a man. And a man's approach, they're both approaching it with fear. This is extreme sports. It's scary. It never stops being scary. But the way in which they learn is such that when they perform and when they get good at it, there's like a divine femininity, like a unique strength, like elegant strength. It's not, you can't get it through brute force, through just like trying and failing and trying and failing. That's how a guy learns. You can't get that through being, you can't get the female approach through that sort of that speed and strength, because you have to focus on the detail. And that elegant strength that they come out with when they actually perform is so beautiful. It's like, it's like watching ballerinas. It's incredible. And that's what we should be focusing on. And I think that's where the similarities are in business and in extreme sports, because actually women are unique in their way, and we should be focusing on what we're good at, not trying to be the same as everybody else.
And I think you said that in the promo video as well. It's just, you know, giving women now the same opportunities as men. It's not really. It's not. We're not the same, and
we're not the same.
Yeah, and again, as you said, it's a scale, but we shouldn't strive to everyone to work in the way the system is currently working. As in extreme sports, it wasn't like, well, we just need to get more women into the same ways that
totally
currently working.
And I think I said it on the clip, the voiceover on the video that you made, and it's that inclusion doesn't mean equality. Like again, it's so easy to articulate in the extreme sports world, but it doesn't take much to translate it into the business world. In the extreme sports world, if you open up a competition to men and women joint, that doesn't mean equality, because we're different. We have a different body mass, a different strength, a different sizing. Everything is different in our genetics. So if you open up a competition that's mixed, that's not equality, that's not fair competition. So in some areas it might be, but in certain areas of extreme sports it's not. And again, we talked about before, there's a competition called King of the Air. It's the biggest kite surfing competition in the world, and it's run by Red Bull. The clue is in the title, King of the Air. But they've been running for years and years and years, and it's been men only. Now the wakeboarding and kite surfing, not so much surfing, but those two industries are very immature. So it's not that surprising that it's men only competition. There's not many women in the sport, and they're a business. They have to make money. So if they open up a women's only event, they need to make sure they have a high caliber of women entering. So whilst I don't always agree with that, I recognize that is their priority is business. Last year they opened their competition up to men and women mixed. So they didn't open a women's only, they opened men and women's mixed. And the first year no women got in. The second year a French woman got in called Angélie Brulé, and she did really well. It wasn't a wildcard entry. She absolutely deserved to be there. But and again, we've spoken about this briefly, the big air is all about jumping high, basically. They send themselves up into the sky. So if anyone's seen kite surfing at a beach, you've probably seen people go super, super high. And Red Bull King of the Air is about how high you can go and what you can do when you're up there. Women can't go as high as men. And that's not because they don't try, they don't train hard enough, they haven't had as much experience. It's because they genetically can't go as high as men, because we have a different centre mass of gravity in our bodies. That means that when we send it up, we can't go as high. The harness of a kite sits beneath, I'm showing you down here, but sits beneath your chest, and the guy's centre mass of gravity is above that and women's is below. So it was incredible that Angélie got into the competition. And it's not a surprise that no other women have got in. And that's a perfect example of we're not the same. We're different. And we've often spent so long, and I've spent so long in my life trying to prove that we're the same and we can do the same things. And, we want to be equal, but we're not the same. And that's a kind of really easy way of articulating it.
Yeah, it's so much easier when it's physical and you can see it, and it's not those subtle kind of relationships.
Yeah, your mind's working. Yeah.
Just as you were saying about like the physical differences between men and women. If you stand against a wall with your feet straight against the wall, and then put your feet directly behind your other foot twice, so you're 2 feet space away from the wall.
Yeah.
Your head down, and you try and lift a bag, and then stand up. A woman can do it, and a man cannot, because of exactly what you just said.
It's so crazy that's amazing, because it seems like such a simple thing, and I hope that the people in this meeting are going to try it, because.
So I tried it in the Altius office back when we were allowed to be in offices. When we were going to have this panel event like in real time in March. And I can't remember who I was with, but they kind of didn't really believe me.
No.
So I had to go out and get some men in. I was like, right, come in here. And they were just like, how are you doing that? And it's like, well, how are you not? Because if you can do it, and I don't know if this is for everyone, but most people, if you can do something comes naturally to you, as in, you know, you're good at skateboarding, or, you know, you're good at writing or putting a PowerPoint together or coding, like you kind of normally assume that everyone else can do it. If you can do it, that can't be that hard, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of, it's acknowledging that, and
it is, yeah. And actually that is so the self-promotion of women does not exist in extreme sports, and it does not exist in business. And again, it's so easy to see in extreme sports because the sports are immature. They're not like football and rugby, which, I mean, already it's difficult for women to get exposure, but certainly in the media recently, the England football team, female football teams, had a great exposure, and I mean, things have changed since COVID and they're making cuts, but but the extreme sports world is really hard because there's not a market for it. So for kite surfing, it's all about Instagram. It's all about the social media platforms and that kind of thing. And you have to self-promote. You don't have someone who's doing it for you. And I think women find that really hard to do because they show off. And we're told, you know, they have to show off, and we're told right from when we're kids, don't show off. You know, it's like a negative thing. Stop getting the attention, stop showing off. And actually, unless you show off, you will not succeed.
Yeah, and I just find that's so similar in business, because it's showing off, or, you know, being louder in meetings. You know, I've mentored quite a few people, and, you know, I rarely, if any, get a guy who says to me, I'm just nervous to speak up. Like, you know, one of the points I need to work on is, you know, being more confident in, you know, what I'm saying. You know, they have other things that they want to work on, but that's very rarely a guy thing. But pretty much every woman has ever said that to me.
Yeah, but there's also a subtle difference there as well, which is if a woman has spoken up and told you that they're nervous to speak, it means they're acknowledging that fear and they're recognizing it, and they're probably allowing it to overcome them. Whereas men can find it much easier. They still might be feeling that fear, but they channel it into ambition, because when they're young, they're told, you know, that a woman might be a little bit more, you know, cuddled and wrapped up and said, okay, don't worry, I can help you. And again, that's the nurture we can't change. And we have to recognize that. We really have to recognize that in business, because and extreme sports, because we can't change that nurture. And again, with the extreme sports world, the approach to a lesson, to learning, as I said before, they're both experiencing fear. They're just channeling it in a different way.
Yeah.
And unless you give a woman the space to think about the environment, to ask questions, to, you know, talk about what's going to happen if, give them all of those, that space to think, only then do they get the confidence. A safe space. And that's what you get with women only initiatives. Yeah.
Which again, I was quite similar to you when I was previous organisations, and especially when I was quite young in my career. Like, yeah, absolutely not. That was, you know, giving in really as such, and I didn't want to segregate myself. But
yeah,
I don't think we should segregate ourselves. It's just, you know, understanding, right, the current system that we work with, you know, whether it's business, whether it's extreme sports, you know, whether it's something else, you know, most of it is kind of built in a man's world, and they know what they know, and so they assume everyone else works like that. And so it's just checking it and challenging it, and us as a group, as a whole, you know, men, women, and other, just, you know, kind of voicing or feeling in a safe space to voice what they feel and how they think, and everyone understanding that actually just because someone thinks in a way, like everyone else does in different ways, and making sure the system works for everyone. And so changing the system, not the people.
Yeah, exactly. Not the people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think the safe space thing's really interesting, because one of the things that I really focus on with She Flies and the marketing around it is that we are not an anti-men or anti-industry. We love men. But it's different when it's just women. And it's really hard to send that right message because, you know, I do get a lot of interest from guys that are coming and they want to learn. And actually, a lot of men would really benefit from the way in which we coach, because we are the only organisation at the moment that identifies ourselves as someone who coach differently. And a lot of men will really benefit from that. But the energy you create when you have just women, I truly believe can't be recreated elsewhere. And I really do tread carefully when I say that, because it can be controversial, but there's something around just having another person in the room that isn't quite like you behave a little bit different and you kind of put your guard up a little bit. Whereas we had a beginners camp last weekend, kite surfers beginners camp, and they said at the beginning, like, you know, they all felt really nervous. They felt like they had to prove something and achieve something, and then as soon as they started together as a group, they recognized they didn't have to prove anything, and actually they had their own space to develop, and having each other around them just push themselves to develop more.
Well, I was speaking to my husband about, you know, just kind of just understanding ideas and guys, and making sure that, you know, that message doesn't come across. But as I was kind of talking it through, it's just like, yes, but men benefit from men as well, like they do as well. But at the moment, there's a lot of that situation obviously already there, and whether they're consciously recognizing that actually the kind of you know, companionship and relationships they have there is because they're both men, you know, or they're all men together, then you get this great benefit as well from men and women, and obviously the differences that they bring. But there's, at the moment, you know, I think it's quite similar for obviously extreme sports and business. Like there's just not a huge amount of women, so actually it's few and far between you kind of get those situations where it's all women. And my husband went to this Women in Defence Awards. We went together, and when we came away from that award ceremony, there was hundreds of people. Karen Brady was like the speaker, and when we came away, he was like, "Wow, now I know how you feel," because he was like, you know, I didn't feel uncomfortable. It wasn't a bad thing, but I've never really been the minority of like hundreds of successful women, and you know, you kind of go around to different stands and talk and things. It's just different, and we need to make sure we have elements of male only, of female only, of joint, and
totally. And I think that's it. We have to. It's controversial because we've spent so many years in trying to find equal opportunities, but we are different. And what you were just saying then about the you know, having women around us, is inspiration is absolutely vital for success. That is clear in the extreme sports world, and it's even more clear maybe in the business world. The reason for that is, you know, when you're trying to get more women on a senior on a board, for example, it's not about ticking a box and reaching the number that when you publish it to the government, you know, all of these things, it looks okay. It's people have to see past it. Yes, that is probably, I hate to say it, but it is probably the primary goal for a lot of these huge organizations. Not all of them, absolutely, but probably, you know, the driver for it is to make sure it looks like they're promoting it. And for the good ones, they really believe in that diversity and making sure that they have a true representation at the board. But for me, the most important thing is for the women who are looking up to that person. So taking it back to the extreme sports world, when I go to the beach and I go kite surfing, I'm one of the better riders there. And if I see a woman riding on the water and she's better than me, I am mesmerized, but I can't hold a conversation. I can't take my eyes off her. I'm watching everything she's doing, how she's doing it, who she's talking to afterwards. I want to talk to her, I want to hear her, because she looks like me. And all the other guys on the water are incredible. Like, they're fast and they're strong and they're, you know, they do these amazing tricks. They're innovative. They're beautiful to watch, but they don't look like me. So they don't give me the inspiration that she gives me. And that's clear as day. I mean, it gives me tingles thinking about it. In business, it's harder to feel like that. But I can't deny, when I meet a woman, I met a woman at the weekend who works for PA and she's senior, and I loved hearing her opinion and her views on things because she was like me.
Yeah.
And that's why we should have more women on the board. It's not about ticking a box.
Yeah. And I like that phrase, you cannot be who you cannot see.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And just getting the faces on the walls. And I think there was a campaign of like getting more women's kind of pictures up. It's just those kind of subtle things that you probably don't really notice.
No, I don't think you do. But you just kind of take a second look and you think about it. I mean, you know, that it makes a difference. So, you know, I had decisions whether I want to be promoted in my organisation or I don't. And when you see a woman who's in that role, you think twice about it. And I'm way more likely to go for it if I see someone there that I think, okay, she's compassionate, I'm compassionate. She's emotionally intelligent, I'm emotionally intelligent. She looks like me. She acts like me when she walks into a room.
Yeah.
And I recognise her. Whereas some of the guys that I respect and I admire, they don't look like me.
Yeah. Yeah. From that, yeah. I couldn't say that more. You know, when I meet a woman as well, it's weird, who's like successful. I'm really intrigued about their background. I'm like, how did you get to where you got to?
Yeah.
If I meet a man who's successful, who I admire or I look up to, that's great. But I don't know why. If I meet a woman, I'm like, how did you get there? Because I think I'm so intrigued because I think I kind of feel like I kind of fell into, you know, what I was doing and where I've got to, and you know, if I got promotion, like I must have gotten lucky or whatever. And so everyone I meet who's like, you know, successful, I'm like, how did you get there? Because you know, I just got here from luck. So, you know, how did you get here? How is the right way to get here? Like,
yeah. And actually this is something that I've been talking about recently quite a lot, is there's a fine line between jealousy and competition, maybe. I'm not sure if I'm using the right words, but certainly jealousy is the right one. So we're emotional. Women are more emotional. That's not a bad thing. That's a superpower. And when I see that girl or woman on the water, my first instinct is jealousy. I'm like, oh, I want to be as good as her. But there's a fine line between jealousy and competition, because actually, as long as the jealousy doesn't turn green and it makes me change my behavior, as long as I drive it into ambition and an admiration, and I talk to that person and I find out about her, jealousy just drives ambition. It just drive. It drives drive. Is that the right thing? It drives me. And I think sometimes in business, you know, I truly believe that emotion is a superpower of women. We think differently.
We talk that as such a bad thing.
It's always talked about a negative thing. And again, with extreme sports, when women are fearful, that's a powerful tool to have. It's just how you handle it and how you deal with it. And emotion is a superpower, and it's something that a lot of men aren't actually that in tune with, and we should be using it. Jealousy is an emotion. We should be using that. There's no problem with that, as long as it doesn't turn green. You know, you should be able to use it and feel it and recognize it and then act on it.
Yeah. And I was just as you were talking then, it's like, yes, women and being emotional, as you said before, scales, right? Because it's not just, you know.
Yeah, there's a scale, yeah.
For both men and women as well. But also men potentially being less emotional is also their superpower, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I wish I was. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. God. But, you know, and then having those kind of together and working together, you know.
They complement each other.
Exactly.
Totally.
But it's understanding that we're different and that we can complement each other and do really well, but actually to encourage and understand what we do differently. Maybe we do have to kind of go back to our kind of teams and understand it, encourage it, learn from it, inspire each other, and then you work together as well, maybe. But who knows? Like, and that's why I kind of wanted to do this, is to talk about it. Yeah, and to get different viewpoints and ideas and that's why I kind of wanted to open up to questions as well, is because there's no kind of right and wrong. There's a scale of everything.
Yeah.
And just getting the conversation out like this is just, I don't know, it would have been so helpful for me years ago, but it's still so helpful for me now. And yeah, we've both been so excited about this for.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. And I think the one piece of advice that I would give, which is because we don't know and we don't know what the right answer is, but I think denying how you feel is not a good thing. And a lot of the time I'm speaking from being a woman and being an emotional one for sure, you know, I do have superpowers, and that is because I'm a woman and I've hidden them for a long time. And it's now only with She Flies that I recognize that divine femininity is a superpower. You should jump into it and expose it, whether that's in business, whether that's in extreme sports, whether that's in your approach to things. You know, you should work out what that uniqueness of you is and bring it to the table. You know, in business, it might be compassion, it might be emotional intelligence, like we talked about, but you have to find it and use it and don't deny it. That's really important to me.
I'm just going to go into some of the questions. We've only got kind of 14 minutes left, and I don't want to eat into people's Wednesday evenings, even though obviously no one's going to be doing anything anymore. So the sun has gone, and we are. So the first one is from Kofo. Apologies. How do you overcome imposter syndrome in such a male-dominated field? And I'm guessing this is extreme sports, but I reckon you can probably relate it to both data science and extreme sports. Or you don't know yet.
That's a really good question, because imposter syndrome is, I'm definitely a victim to imposter syndrome. Interestingly, a very, very short story. When I was an instructor in Perth in Australia, when you're an instructor, you wear this horrible garish rash vest. Everyone knows you're an instructor. And the wind wasn't right. So I was waiting with my student, who was a guy. And there was, we weren't kite surfing, we were just sitting there chatting. And someone went out to kite surf. And to kite surf, you have to have someone help you. It's called launching the kite, where you get the kite in the sky. And the guy came over to us both, and he asked the student to help him launch, a student who'd never touched a kite before. And that makes you feel like you don't belong there. You know, whether you suffer from imposter syndrome or not, it makes you feel like, God, that's embarrassing. But actually, it's embarrassing for them. It's the assumption that they make that you aren't able to do it. I realise I haven't answered the question what that person asked. I think it's really where She Flies came from, is that the support of women at the beach when you get there and you have that encouragement. I think also everyone recognises an extreme. It's very stark that there's a problem with the representation of women there. So it's not as, you don't have to necessarily hide it so much as you might do in business. So imposter syndrome certainly comes, but it's a terrible answer to that question.
But
I don't know how you deal with it.
But what will probably help, right, and what I found helps, is that community, is hearing voices of other people, of like, you know what, Jose, that happened to me down, like, how embarrassing for you know, both people involved or whatever. When I've, you know, come into a client meeting and been asked to like pour the tea and take the minutes, which has happened, I don't kind of encounter many times. But it's embarrassing for everyone. But being able to hear those stories, I guess, and part of that community helps.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
No, and I think it is that. It's because imposter syndrome assumes that you don't belong, and it's so crazy that, because when you go to a beach, we call it beach anxiety, when you kind of walk on and everyone, basically, when you're not on the water, no one knows anyone's level, so you kind of all walk onto the beach and you kind of suss each other out, who's got the best kit, working out like who might be the best rider. And it's this weird tension, and then after you've been on the water, the hierarchy's been established, you all know how it sits, and everyone just relaxes a little bit because no one can change it, you know. So I don't know completely the answer to that, but I think certainly just exposing it and talking about how you feel is the only way I ever deal with it.
Yeah, but it's a tricky one. I think a lot of kind of everyone gets it. I guess it's just different ways of coping with it.
Yeah.
So another one which is really interesting, good question from Colin. Have you seen similar challenges where people with disabilities want to get involved, but the sport creates challenges? I mean,
Yeah. So there's a great, I can't remember the name of the place, but it's in Greece. They do a camp for physically disabled people to learn to kite surf, and it's incredible. They create these boards and kites that basically allow people to go and ride, and so there is definitely a kind of acknowledgement that that's a great thing to do, but there's absolutely no representation in competitions or the actual the actual kind of the industry, the business.
Yeah.
What I would say is hopefully lots of people know her, but there's a surfer called Bethany Hamilton. She was bitten by a shark when she was about 12. She's just released a movie. She lost her arm, shark bit her arm off. And her determination meant that the first thing she said once she was recovering was, when can I go back in the water again?
Yeah.
She competes in able-bodied surf competitions. It makes me get goosebumps. She was offered a disabled competition to enter, and she essentially said, how dare you? I'm competing in the able-bodied. So those of you that know surfing, you paddle with both arms with all of your might to catch the wave. She paddles with one arm, and she wins. She's incredible. I think there is a problem in the sport in that there isn't that kind of representation for people with disabilities who do want to who want to compete, particularly in kite surfing, but they're very immature sports. I think there's a lot of hurdles to overcome in order to get there. But there are initiatives that support people with disabilities that if they want to learn and get involved, they can.
Yeah, yeah, which is great. I think, yeah, it's what you kind of said before about being inspired and maybe making them more
absolutely.
visible. Really, because that, that would be.
I mean, Bethany, yeah, I don't know. Just getting back in the water after a shark's bit in your arm off. Like,
I mean, because it's inspiring for everyone.
Yes, absolutely. But imagine to people who are, in a similar disability to her. Well, she wouldn't even she daren't call it a disability.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing here, is trying to inspire everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Men inspire me, but that's kind of mostly who I see. But people like, Steve Jobs, in the tech world, super inspiring, super amazing at speaking. But yeah, it's just making sure there's plenty of
yeah.
We've probably got time for one or two more questions. So what type of challenges do you think women, not men, face in leading roles of business? And I don't know whether that's a little bit loaded or whether it's just people face some challenges and they work differently or they combat them differently. I don't know.
Well, I think, I have to refer to the Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, yeah, which talks a lot about the problems that we find as female leaders, and not least the fact that women can come across bossy and rude and harsh, and guys can come across as ambitious by showing the same traits. But I think that's a perception that is going to be so difficult to change. Like we said before, the nurture, but actually sometimes, and I really tread carefully saying this because I don't know the answer, if this answer is correct, but a lot of the time, women who are in those senior roles have had to be harsh and bossy, and but
never describe a man as
determined. No, exactly. Yeah. So
he's the boss.
He's the boss. She's bossy. Yeah, exactly. But I think it's time now that women should be in those roles without having to prove themselves and act like someone else. And if that's why that person is being like that, then are they acting? I mean, I tread carefully saying it, but I think the perception of women in business is going to be harder to change.
Do you think it might be the values that are, rewarded, basically? Because, if we think about it really, again, there's a scale and it's not definitive, but, if we think about what's really rewarded, kind of inconsistent, it will be sales, immediate sales. And probably men generally might be more confident to approach people they don't know, or to show off more, to be able to get that bigger sale or whatever, or to lead it. And so they get more kind of reward for it, or seen as being the person. But actually, and that's their superpower, essentially. But then if we think about women and their superpowers, might be more, okay, the team community, or the fact that the team are happy, and therefore
the support, the compassion, and
that is that rewarded? Do we ever look at team morale and the attrition of the people who work underneath people? That's not things that we quantitatively reward or look at or value.
Exactly. And relationships are that's something I've learned in my business world, is they are by far the most important thing. So maintaining relationships and nurturing teams and finding skills in individuals and pulling it out of them. I'm a professional leadership coach, performance coach outside of this stuff as well. Seeing true potential in someone and bringing it out of them, that should be rewarded, because you're building a team that succeeds. It's not about the final figure on the bottom, which is so often what everyone's striving for. It's about how you get there and who made that happen. I totally agree. We should be rewarding for that kind of behavior.
It's obviously hard to maybe quantify, and so that's why it's kind of easier. You reward on the number of sales you have, but it is
of course,
managing that system that is currently in place, and understanding who it's rewarding and what kind of behaviors it's rewarding, and then who that might be kind of biased towards. It's a scale.
It's hard. It is hard, and this is the point. It's hard, but we have to keep pushing, because it's not going to suddenly get easy. But the world, it's we have to do something about it.
Someone else would have done it.
Exactly.
Awesome. We're nearly at the end. Let me just see if there's one more question. As a father, how can I support and empower my young daughters in these challenges? What a question. I love it.
Oh my God, what a question. What a question.
Get me emotional.
God, really, me as well. God, see, we're emotional. That's a brilliant question. And I think for me, depending on how old that this person's daughter is, the showing off thing is, for me, has the last sort of 6 months has really become apparent to me in She Flies. We are so often told to stop showing off as a young person, and that is where we get our confidence. Like, how do you encourage a young girl to show off without getting the perception of being, I don't know what the word is. I don't know how you do it, but you have to allow that girl to express her own pride and learn how to express it, because then you get confident, and that's what's needed. And I think for me as well, if I kind of look back and think about that question for myself, it's the space to show off. I mean, I've always been a bit of a show off anyway, so it's not so much for me, but also it's the space to be able to express her emotions. Like, if she's scared, let her sit there and explain in depth why she's scared, because that's how we learn. We learn through detail and analysis and understanding the whole picture. If she's nervous, let her explain it. Don't just say, don't be nervous, get on with it. So, again, in our coaching, we talk about how will you feel if you do it, rather than why are you nervous? It's like an accusatory thing. Don't be nervous. Why are you nervous? Talk about what's making you nervous. How will you feel when you get through it? Like, allow that girl to have space for her emotions, because that is her superpower.
That's amazing, and such a nice question.
Lovely question.
Anonymous one. So thank you everyone who's put questions in. Everyone who's put a question in, please, if you can email womenindata@altiusdata.com. I think Nina will put it in the chat. Just if you send us your address, we'll send you a goodie bag of both She Flies merchandise and also some techie stuff too from Altius. And so the winner as well will also get a 60-minute. So as Josie said earlier, she's a leadership coach, sometimes known as a kind of a
life coach. Yeah.
And Josie will spend kind of 60 minutes with you, either going through kind of extreme sports, any kind of other sports, or business and or as well. So yeah, thank you so much, and thanks everyone for joining. Like, it's just really nice for me to talk to you, Jose, and kind of talk about these issues and problems and things that we have in common and things that we've experienced. But thank you everyone for joining. We've got another one next month, as I said, kind of talking about mentoring and female to female mentorship, and we kind of touched on it today about the benefits, both to obviously to the females, but also to organisations and everyone else. It's not just women that benefit from kind of women-only initiatives, and that's
definitely
never.
Not.
And people who know either you or me know that we definitely don't hate men in any way. We definitely don't want to be excluding men. So thank you, Josie, for your time, and thank you everyone else for joining. I'll just put the She Flies video for anyone who kind of missed it, who was working late. But it's inspiring video, and I love it.
It will get you inspired. Yeah, beware, you'll want to become a professional kite surfer after you've watched it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hang on, let's bring it up. But yeah, thank you, Jose. And yeah, everyone remember to send your addresses to the chat.
Thank you very much.
I guess it started when I became an instructor. I could see this golden thread in our learning approach and our riding style, and actually, I think fear is a really big part of that. The anxiety and frustration and even tears. If you get through that, something changes. My name is Josie West.
My name is Ava.
My name is Liu.
I'm Kat.
Jennifer Johnston. My name is Madison.
Henrietta.
Yalu Langare.
My name is Catherine.
Daisy.
I'm Kim.
Jess.
I'm Clemmy.
My name is Jules.
My name is Paulina.
I'm Natalie.
My name is Elishkov Manava.
My name is Grace Austin.
My name is Rhian Atkins.
My name is Hannah Whiteley.
I'm Anya.
Therese.
I'm Sophie.
Marine.
My name's Kim.
I'm Jana Muse.
Yana Karchmova.
My name is Cynthia Brown.
My name is Kaya Lima.
My name is Simona.
It's Pauline.
Layla.
Our mission is to create more of us. It's simple. But make sure there's an environment that doesn't stop us. Instead, it encourages us and supports us. And for those at the top, that determination and the commitment and the sacrifice, we recognize that and we use them. They're so inspirational, and ultimately, they're the ones leading the way.
I fly.
I fly.
I fly. She flies.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree.
I'm a professional kite surfer.
Oh, I've been running from the law.
I don't really do tricks, but I like to try to get barrel. My best advice is to enjoy what you're doing. That is the key to success.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.
If there's something you want to do, just do it, because life's too short to hold back.
My absolute favourite thing to do in the world is snowboarding.
I'm not a professional kite surfer, but I'm professionally stoked.
Don't think, just do it.
My best trick?
Meg roll.
Double back roll.
Back roll to revert.
Control.
Two-side transparent to blind.
Wrapped front roll.
Strapless front roll.
I haven't landed any tricks yet, but that's my next challenge.
Just jumped and I just did it.
Sporty person out there is the one having the most fun.
Be fearless, girls. Follow your passion.
Remember to celebrate.
With a bit of passion and persistence, anything is possible.
Click your brain off, do it, and you're gonna get it.
It's the best feeling you can have.
Beginner or professional, there's a global wave and there is definitely a place for you. Be brave. Because when you fly, we fly.